All right, it is 7:30, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. My name is Chris, and I'm an alcoholic.
Chris.
And I would just gonna ask everyone to mute themselves at this time. There'll be plenty of opportunity for sharing later. And we're gonna open this meeting with a moment of silence, followed by the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Welcome to the Thursday night emotional sobriety workshop. This is not a formal AA meeting, but a workshop put on by men and women interested in the continuation and maintenance of a spiritual awakening to stay recovered from alcoholism. This meeting is not a substitute for 12-step Big Book recovery. In fact, we think our exploration of this letter will only be relevant to someone who is actively working the program of recovery outlined masterfully in our AA Big Book. Everyone is encouraged to share what they're working on to mature and grow spiritually. Please enjoy the conversation and allow others to do the same by maintaining an attitude of open-mindedness and tolerance. Our workshops this summer will be recorded in order to allow other members of our fellowship to enjoy these conversations, so please be mindful of that when sharing. Our meeting will begin with the reading of Bill Wilson's 1958 essay, The Next Frontier, Emotional Sobriety. After the reading, we will have a lead share, and the meeting will then be open for participation or questions for the speaker. And tonight, Sam will be reading the essay.
Hey everybody, my name is Sam and I'm an alcoholic. And Chris, I'm really honored that you asked me to read this tonight. All right, so this is the next. So for anybody who hasn't joined this meeting before, this is a bit of a long reading. So just stick with it. We don't have any other readings, and really we'll try and follow along with it. Love, the Next Frontier, Emotional Sobriety, January 1958. I think that many oldsters who have put our AA booze cure to a severe but successful test still find they often lack emotional sobriety. Perhaps they will be the spearhead for the next major development in AA, the development of a much more real maturity and balance, which is to say humility in our relations with ourselves, with our fellows, and with God. Those adolescent urges that so many of us have for top approval, perfect security, and perfect romance. Urges quite appropriate to age 17 proved to be an impossible way of life when we were at age 47 or 57. Since AA began, I have taken immense wallops in these areas because of my failure to grow up emotionally and spiritually. My God, how painful it is to keep demanding the impossible, and how very painful to discover finally that all along we have had the cart before the horse. Then comes the final agony of seeing how awfully wrong we have been, but still finding ourselves unable to get off the emotional merry-go-round. How to translate a right mental conviction into a right emotional result and so into easy and happy and good living. Well, that's not only the neurotics problem, it's the problem of life itself for all of us who have got to a point of real willingness to hew to right principles in all of our affairs. Even then, as we hew away, peace and joy may still elude us. That's the place so many of us AA ulcers have come to, and it's a hell of a spot. How shall our unconscious, from which so many of our fears, compulsions, and phony aspirations still stream, be brought into line with what we actually believe, know, and want? How to convince our dumb, raging, and hidden Mr. Hyde becomes our main task. I've recently come to believe that this can be achieved. I believe so because I begin to see many benighted ones, folks like you and me, commencing to get results. Last autumn, depression, having no real rational cause at all, almost took me to the cleaners. I began to be scared that I was in for another long chronic spell. Considering the grief I've had with depression, it wasn't a bright prospect. I kept asking myself, why can't the 12 steps work to release depression? By the hour, I stared at the St. Francis prayer. It is better to comfort than to be comforted. Here was the formula, right? But why didn't it work? Suddenly, I realized what the matter was. My basic flaw had always been dependence, almost absolute dependence on people or circumstances to supply me with prestige, security, and the like. Failing to get these things according to my perfectionist dreams and specifications, I had fought for them, and when defeat came, so did my depression. There wasn't a chance of making the outgoing love of St. Francis a workable and joyous way of life until these fatal and almost absolute dependencies were cut away. Because I had over the years undergone little spiritual development, the absolute quality of these frightful dependencies had never before been so starkly revealed. Reinforced by what grace I could secure in prayer, I found I had to exert every ounce of will and action to cut off these faulty emotional dependencies upon people, upon AA, and indeed upon any set of circumstances whatsoever. Then only could I be free to love as Francis had. Emotional and instinctual satisfactions I saw were really the extra dividend of having love, offering love, and expressing a love appropriate to each relation to life. Plainly, I could not avail myself of God's love until I was able to offer it back to him by loving others as he would have me. And I couldn't possibly do that so long as I was victimized by false dependencies. For my dependency meant demand, a demand for the possession and control of people and conditions surrounding me. While those words absolute dependency may look like a gimmick, they were the ones that helped to trigger my release into my present degree of stability and quietness of mind, qualities which I am now trying to consolidate by offering love to others regardless of the return to me. This seems to be the primary healing circuit, an outgoing love of God's creation and his people by means of which we avail ourselves of his love for us. It is most clear that the real current can't flow until our paralyzing dependencies are broken and broken at depth. Only then can we possibly have a glimmer of what adult love really is. Spiritual calculus, you say? Not a bit of it. Watch any AA of 6 months working with a new 12-step case. If the case says to the devil with you, the 12-stepper only smiles and turns to another case. He doesn't feel frustrated or rejected. If his next case responds and in turn starts to give love and attention to other alcoholics, yet gives none back to him, the sponsor is happy about it anyway. He still doesn't feel rejected. Instead, he rejoices that his one-time prospect is sober and happy. And if his next following case turns out in later time to be his best friend or romance, then the sponsor is most joyful. But he well knows that his happiness is the byproduct, the extra dividend of giving without any demand for return. The really stabilizing thing for him was having and offering love to that strange drunk on his doorstep. That was Francis at work, powerful and practical, minus dependency and minus demand. In the first 6 months of my own sobriety, I worked hard with many alcoholics. Not one responded. Yet this work kept me sober. It wasn't a question of those alcoholics giving me anything. My stability came out of trying to give, not out of demanding that I receive. Thus, I think it can work out with emotional sobriety. If we examined every disturbance we have, great or small, we will find at the root of it some unhealthy dependency and its consequent unhealthy demand. Let us, with God's help, continually surrender these hodling demands. Then we can be set free to live and love. We may then be able to 12-step ourselves and others into emotional sobriety. Of course, I haven't offered you a really new idea, only a gimmick that has started to unhook several of my own hexes at depth. Nowadays, my brain no longer races compulsively in either elation, grandiosity, or depression. I've been given a quiet place in the bright sunshine. So thanks everybody for letting me read that. And tonight I have the special privilege and honor of presenting Dawn. She's a friend to a lot of people in this meeting tonight, and she is an incredible woman and a lot of fun. And I won't take up any more time. I'm just going to go ahead and let her take it away. Dawn, thanks so much for agreeing to share tonight. And you know what to do. Just have fun with it for as long as you feel like.
Thank you, Sam. So I have to, I'm Dawn, I'm alcoholic. I had to get Sam to send this reading to me twice because I've misplaced it on my device. I'm not good with the iPhone. I can't see the thing anymore. I need glasses all the time and I'm too vain to wear. So, so I lost the thing twice, but the reason I had him send it, because if you Google this, I kept hearing him read this thing, and then the copy that I had did not have the part in it that I connected to so much. And I kept trying to, like, what does it say? What does it say? What does it say? And the parts that it doesn't have in it talks about 12-step work. And I don't know whether they edited it for when they submitted it to the Grapevine or why, but the version that you see a lot on when you Google the PDF doesn't come up with this part talking about 12-step work. And the reason, you know, as I got it and I read it and I got to that part, I realized why it was like calling to me each time, but I couldn't have the reading to come from. Because Bill talks about getting to a place of a quiet place in the bright sunshine, but he also talks about giving and receiving love. And how when we have that strange drunk at our doorstep, that we open the door with a tremendous amount of love and compassion and caring for them. And I've been doing a lot of internal work, and what I realized is what it says in here, and it just jumped out and hit me. It says, it's near the end of the reading, it says, then we can be set free to live in love. We may then be able to 12-step ourselves and others into emotional sobriety. And I think that that is the thing that my soul was hearing, is that I have to be able to some extent love myself with the same unconditional love that I would give any newcomer. And that to me, I've been my sobriety date is September the 20th of 1990. And I say that only to illustrate that, I got gray hair here. and it has been a huge time for me to get to a place where I realize that self-compassion is critical for my ongoing emotional sobriety. And I have done a lot of time in Alcoholics Anonymous, and the other part that speaks to me is that, and Kurt talked about it in his talk about that, the image that I can create for myself in AA as the good AA, looking for prestige and position within what my sponsor calls the outright mental defective ward. So I'm just, I'm trying to be popular with the outright mental defectives. But the truth is that's true about me. I want to say the right thing, do the right thing, show up at the right meetings, and follow the agenda correctly so that somehow I get an A here. And through that process, I have had a very slow awakening of the educational variety to the word love. And it's been a journey for me through recovery, but I'm going to try to talk a little bit about, with the honesty, about not where I'm at now, but what's working for me right now. And I'm sure it will take, a little bit of time, and then I can talk a little bit more about the reading. But I'm trying really hard to learn that I have a heart center, and I have a head center that works a lot. And I am trying really hard to learn how to come from my heart center, because I believe that it is critical for me going forward. And so one of the things that has happened to me and a few other people is we have COVID now. And I don't know whether you all have COVID, but we have COVID where I live. It's my lame joke. But as a result of that, I've had to spend a lot of time with me. And I live by myself. I have 2 dogs who they were sent to me by God, absolutely, so that they could take care of me when I couldn't take care of myself. They actually provide me with a reason to get up in the morning and start moving, and when I don't want to. So I am so grateful for my dogs. I don't show it a lot. I have an agenda, and that's part of my trouble. And as a result of COVID, I've had to sit still inside my home. And anybody who knows me knows that I like to travel. And I like to go places, and I like to jet, and I like to come be with y'all. I am so desperate to come see all of you people. I want to come to Nashville. I want to come to Indianapolis. I want to come to Santa Fe. I haven't made it out to Washington State yet, but I know if I go there, I'd have somewhere to visit. Like, I love being with you people on the routine basis of recovery throughout the summer season of our events. And I haven't been able to go to any. And what I came to realize is that I had a very slippery spot of making AA a huge part of my God consciousness. Not that that's not appropriate, but I had become overly dependent upon it. And I think that I don't say that with, I say that with concern that it could be taken in a way that's incorrect, but I don't think that it'll be lost on y'all that you're supposed to be leading me to God, not becoming my higher power. And so this summer, having had to be here with me and realize that I'm not really that fond of me. And I'll touch on something that says on the front page. It says, I think that many old timers, that would be me, by the standard, I guess, I have the booze cure, and I often lack emotional sobriety. And I like what I've been taught is that emotional sobriety for me is absolutely contingent upon the maintenance of a spiritual condition. And if I am not centered in my recovery, I become a person that I'm not fond of. And I think it's one thing to worry about drinking. It's another thing to worry about acting out in ways that are going to make it so that I can't stand myself and I don't want to live with me anymore. And I don't like what I look like when nobody's looking. And the way that I stay, that for me becomes like unrecovered alcoholism. I'm unrecovered, and it can happen at any given time. I would like to be able to sit here and tell y'all that, I have it together, that I do this every day and I do it well. And can't we all just smile and meet up on a mountain in Colorado and have a great time? That's not the truth. It takes a lot of willingness on my part to continue to be humbled by the reality of the fact that I'm an alcoholic and that I have alcoholism, not wasm. It has not gone anywhere. As a matter of fact, the road has gotten much narrower for me, so that when I get off the beam, it gets painful for me really quick. And so I have to learn or exact certain things to get back on the beam, if you will. And one of the chief things that I have, and I'll tell you about a dream I had the other day. I have sponsorship is critical to me because I live alone, so there's nobody to watch me. And I don't have someone saying, you need to get your crap together. That just doesn't happen. So I stay pretty close to an honest connection with sponsorship, because if I didn't, I think I would become more delusional than I already am. Self-delusion is one of our big problems. And I make up stories and I start believing them. And you are the problem when I start telling myself stories about life. And so I do that. The other day I had a dream. So I didn't have a drinking dream. So this is like where it talks about, the people who already have the booze cure. So I didn't have a drinking dream. What I did have was a dream in which I had done something. I don't remember what I had done, but apparently it was bad enough that I didn't want to talk to my sponsor about it. In the dream, I was already shucking and jiving, figuring out why I didn't have to tell her this. And it was, it was going to be okay. And just so you know, I have experience with that behavior. And what that behavior looks like for me when I become, quote, unrecovered, sponsoring myself, is I start doing things. Once I make one executive decision, then I make about 10 more. And the next thing you know, I'm in a lot of pain. And then I do not want to have to explain why I have been dishonest for the past 2 weeks. So I go through this whole histrionics in my head about why I don't need to be real. That is obviously a bad case of self-will run riot, but that's what happens. So my unrecovered dream was about me not being honest with the sponsor. I woke up from that dream just like you would wake up from a drinking dream, going, oh, thank God I didn't do that. And I didn't make up this stuff that I have to get honest about. because it is so painful when I paint myself into that, cocoon of dishonesty for me to get back out, because I have a small problem that I think many of y'all will identify with. I have a bad case of pride, and I don't want to admit I was wrong. And I don't want, I really have a bad case of pride. So that's that one. The thing that I have really been fessing up to for myself, like actually coming to the awareness of, is how immature I am. And I thought immaturity had something to do with, I don't know, shopping too much, acting out, having, bad responses and stuff. What I'm finding out for me that has become immaturity is an unwillingness to feel a real feeling. That I have not gotten emotionally available enough for myself to actually sit still and feel the measure of reality that comes to me on a fairly routine basis. And so what I do is I move away from it real quick. Somehow, some way I move away from how I feel. And I'm humbled to admit that to y'all, because I have had tremendous measures of grace through a lot of stuff in my life that has been painful. But when I think that I can, I think that I got it figured out, now I'm good to go, I start micromanaging my own feelings again. And I, by the, over a period of time, become really immature, and I don't want to feel anything that doesn't feel good. One of the things I had to think about recently was the idea of drinking to escape. And it wasn't that I wanted to drink. I just didn't want to feel the way I felt. And I realized that it just was another level of me understanding that I drank to escape. That getting away from how I feel is one of the number one things. It is the number one thing for me that will cause me to keep backing myself into a place where I got real trouble. I don't go back as far as I used to go. I don't get myself into true jams, but what I do get is immediate uncomfortability. And it's like I'm like cornered by the way I feel, and I need to be able to do something to get it. I can't stand it. I cannot stand being uncomfortable anymore. So I love the fact that Bill wrote this, that, I believe what he wrote, which is I'm going to be the spearhead into the next frontier of my own recovery, which is love and service. Like I am going to have to be able to get leveled up, if you will, to that method. I will tell you, it says here, I've taken immense wallops in the areas of top approval, perfect security, and perfect romances. I've taken immense wallops in these areas because of my failure to grow up emotionally and spiritually. And I will get into the solution here shortly, but this is not the part that's talking about the solution. This is talking about the problem. And it's like, kind of like, we have to talk about our drinking before we can talk about recovery. And for me, being immature emotionally and spiritually has been something that I really enjoyed, to be honest with you. I don't want to take responsibility for having to be mature. I don't want to have to do what it says, which is hew these principles in all my affairs. I want to hew them in the ones I want to hew them in, and not in the ones I don't want to hew them in. And I will tell you this, and I am always reluctant to talk about this, but it is a huge part of my maturity story. And I don't like talking about it, but I'm gonna. I was married, and I was very happily married in Alcoholics Anonymous. And my husband passed away, which I'll talk about here shortly, about, the God shot that came out of that was absolutely critical to my growth, and so that I can even be here to talk to y'all. But what I can tell you is, I came from an alcoholic family, and I was not given any kind of any measure of understanding about what it meant to be nurtured in my life. And I had a really wonderful husband. And I'm becoming very aware of, and it's because I'm alone, the fact that he took really good care of me. And he was very good at covering a lot of bases. And I felt very secure in that relationship. First relationship I ever felt secure in my life. And as a result of that, I basically did what it said. I failed to grow up emotionally and spiritually because I kind of, leaned on him. And he was so good at it that, okay, we're good. Now, that does not mean that I was, a needy, because I want you to be clear that needy is, needy little wife is not what I would ever be described as. But I have to admit the fact that I had given a lot of my security necessities to a very confident, assured man. And he did a really good job, and we were in recovery together. So it was very easy, and it worked right up until he got very sick and isn't with us anymore. And I want to talk about something. I don't know how it keys in, but I know that it's important. And it'll probably be a shifting point from trouble to recovery, because there was a point. So my husband went into the hospital unexpectedly, and it was like immediate trouble, and it went bad fast. The problem is it didn't go deadly fast. So my husband was very sick in the hospital for a month. And I remember there was a point, and this is where we start talking about reliance upon something greater than ourselves. And when I say to you that it is humiliating to me if I start to resume control again, this is the reason why it's humiliating to me. So when I was in the hospital, and I had the absolute gift of having Mary Thayer as a sponsor. I'll just say that. And, I'd gone out to Colorado, and I told God on my way to Colorado, my husband and I went out there, and please help me find a sponsor that would work for me. And the first thing Mary said to me was, just follow me up the steps. I should have known right then that she was like the skies should have opened and the light should have came on and shined down over her face. Like it was like God talking to me. The truth of it is Mary worked with me for about a little over a year prior to my husband getting sick. And I was running the show. Now, I was a good AA. I went to the right meetings, did the right things, showed up at the right places with the right people, and I had the right tablecloth to go with all that stuff. And it's true. Tom's laughing. I think essentially, even though I was, checking in with my sponsor, I believe I was unsponsorable because I wasn't really asking for help. What I was asking for was a version of what I thought a sponsor would, and I wanted that box checked on my recovery list of things to do. And I think Mary was about ready to let go of me when I called her from the hospital and said to her, I don't know exactly how it went, but I know I told her that my husband's going to die. And she said to me, now I know why I'm sponsoring you. And she said, I'm a grief counselor. And I went, okay. And she explained to me, she basically gave me a few tenets to hold on to during this process. the thing that most importantly demonstrates to me the power of God, when I allow the power of God to work in my life, is what I'm about to tell you. So this could have been the second or third time. I don't know. I was really like emotionally stressed out there. I don't remember what the phone call was, but I know that they had put me in the room where they put the family. And I knew that, you know, I had a very, very present fact that my husband was probably going to die within the next hour. And I was very, you know, and I called her up and she said to me, "Do you trust John?" And I said, "Yes," which was absolutely true. I trusted him. I already told you I trusted him. She said, "Do you trust God?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Stay out of this. It's between them." And I went, "Okay." And when I said, "Okay," it was the relief that comes at once with surrendering. Now, I will tell you that nothing changed around me. Absolutely nothing. The buzzers were still going off. All this stuff was still happening. My hair was still falling out. But I had immediate peace and an immediate relief that allowed me not to be screaming. A couple of days later, we were in there for a month. I don't know, a couple of days later, maybe a week later, I don't know. At some point during our stay, my husband's blood pressure dropped significantly, and they asked me to leave the room again. And I don't know, you know, when they ask you to leave the room, stuff ain't going well. And I went out into the hall, and I remember my whole being shot, literally. My main brain is kind of like that text thing you get where the thing shoots out the top of your head and your whole head vibrates. Because I went back into, he's going to die, it can't happen now. No, 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 no. I had decided I knew what was right, and him dying was not what was right. And the pain was so bad that I really felt like my head was actually going to like blow up. And I remember Mary on the back of my head saying, "Do you trust John?" "Yes." "Do you trust God?" "Yes." "It's between them." Okay. And I went right back into my body, and it was peaceful again. So I have that very clear and present example from my own experience in, you know, what we talk about is a faith that works in rough going. And I realized how painful it was. I'd gotten relief, and then I took my will back, and it went all crazy again. So I have that experience to draw from in that situation that asks me, why on earth would you think that you can start to decide what your life should look like? Because when I do, it's insane. I also have the experience of understanding that when I let go and surrender, that I get to be able to be emotionally mature in rough going. So I have that experience, and I am always humiliated when I realize that I've gone through a bout of emotional self-will. It shames me because of the grace that I've been given. That said, you would think, so my husband passed, and I had to go through grief. And one of the things that is very important to me is the fact that I, through a lot of help from y'all, a lot of help from a sponsor, and a grace that was literally miraculous to me at times, where I would actually have experiences where God was moving in the room, and I knew it. And I don't feel I believe that there are people in this forum that know what I'm talking about. And I went through the grief, and I was with a lot of help able to not, first of all, not drink. Second of all, not do anything entirely too crazy. And I'm really actually kind of proud of myself for my willingness to walk through what was excruciating pain for me that lasted for quite some time, much more than I could have ever expected that I would be able to handle without doing something self-destructive, whatever that looks like. Sorry, I just saw the chat and it distracted me just a little. I'm sorry for whoever's going through what was in the chat. So anyway, my experience was just filled with grace and ease as I passed through some very troubling waters. Now, in November, it will have been 5 years since my husband passed away, this coming November. I will tell you that I thought I had found that bright place in the sun, however it goes, yeah, that quiet place in the bright sunshine. And then COVID came. And I realized that there's more work to be done. And I have to be honest with you. I feel entitled not to have to do anymore. I feel like I suffered enough. I paid my dues. I shouldn't have to go through anymore. I cried for 2 years. I literally cried for 2 years. So I was like, I've done enough. I shouldn't have to do anymore. But that's not the journey that I'm on. And the journey that I'm on does not allow for operating on last year's recovery. It's this year's recovery. And today's recovery has COVID involved. Now, I don't have anyone close to me who is experiencing COVID. My heart is with anybody that does. I have a friend of mine who lost his father just like the day before yesterday from COVID. So I am very aware that this is causing a lot of grief for a lot of people in the terms of loss and sickness. So, and I don't have that. And I am not insensitive to those kind of experiences. Bless anybody that's going through something along those lines. For me, though, COVID has been almost a period of time wherein it's time to grow up again. It's time to say, well, now that you've walked through losing your husband, are you going to walk through being a full-on adult? And I love what Bill says. It would be wonderful if we were 47 or 57. Well, coming this, that we would be grown up, right? I would feel grown up. Well, I don't. And I just hate to admit it. It's true, that sometimes I feel really immature. And, when I got sober, if you would ask me to say how old I felt, I would have told you about 15. And I got sober at 25. If you ask me now how old I feel, probably about 27, and I'm going to be 55. Sometimes I'm just immature. And I don't want to be. I want to be a good example of AA, hewing these principles in all my affairs. But sometimes that's just not true. And when it becomes not true, there's a really big problem for me is I shut down the perimeter because I think I have to present to you a case of doing the right thing at the right time with the right people, with the right makeup on and the right outfit and really weird shoes. So, and that's what I deal with. So as a result of COVID, what has happened for me, I could say to me, but I'll say for me, is I've had to look at residual grief. And I would like to be able to tell you that that grief is about losing my husband, and it's not. My husband did a really good job of taking care of me, and now I have to take care of myself, and I don't take as good of care of myself as he did. And I am now going, what are you doing to this person that lives with you? And I was lucky enough, or unlucky enough, lucky enough, to be in this meeting a few weeks ago. And I'm going to talk about this because it's real for me. It's very real for me right now. When one of our members shared how she'd gotten some freedom from her eating disorders. I don't want to name these things for people, but for me, I have an eating disorder, and I've had it since I was young, very, very young. And I don't want it anymore, and I'm tired, and it's been running the show quietly, quiet as it's kept over here, doing a lot of stuff for a really long time. And, I heard Brian talk about whatever he went through in his experience. And I heard, a lot of people have talked about a lot of different things. I don't think that my struggle with a side disorder is unique. I think my disorder might be unique, but us having a side problem isn't that unique, and that, what I want from it though, I heard this person say they had freedom. So for the longest time, I've had, essentially a recovery coach to keep me between the ditches on this issue. And I don't want it. I want freedom. And I heard someone say they had freedom. And I called them up and I asked them, what did you do? And they gave me some very, very good input. And I, to the best of my ability, implemented what this person told me. And it is amazing to me how when we are walking a walk that brings us to spiritual progress, because this stands between me and a higher power. It is one of the areas of it is the current area that I know about, that is actually, where I exercise my measure of control. And this is pretty self-revealing. I hope it's not too much. But I realized through this process, they said to me that, you're going to have to take, why does this kid, because I'm all the way back at learning that this has been with me for a long time. And, what's wrong? What does this kid really need? And I found out that, and this is so perfect, what I'm about to tell you. I found out that if you were to tell me, what does this kid really need that grew up with me? It's love. And last week, when we had Jay in here talking about that meditation, I love you, I love you, I love you. I apologize for not being here for you, but I'm here now, I love you. Oh my God, that resonated through my soul to be a truth that has been given to me, that I can actually utilize that and get this little spark of hope that there is freedom for me in this area too. This, for me, is the necessary suffering that I am experiencing through having to grieve a lot of losses, again, childhood stuff, all this stuff, so that I can kind of show up, suit up and show up to be of service to a higher power. And that, first of all, it's amazing to me that I am beginning to care enough, that enough layers have been lifted off of me by Alcoholics Anonymous, by grief, by life. I had an ex-boyfriend that used to say, life has a funny way of sponsoring us. If we stay sober, there's going to be some stuff that hits that is going to require some type of faith. It says one of the things that I really held on to when I was grieving was those who fail to perfect and enlarge their spiritual life through work and self-sacrifice for others will not survive the certain trials and low spots ahead. And the reason I hung on to that was because somehow I felt like I'd got a raw deal again. And when I would say that to myself, it's a certain trial and low spot. You're not unique. You did not become the person that is victimized by life one more time, because that was one of the other things my sponsor said to me at that point is, Dawn, this is drinking material. And I went, oh. And I didn't drink, and I know that it was grace. I am absolutely certain that Alcoholics Anonymous and God showed up and kept me from drinking so that I could be here and tell y'all that I want to be of service to that higher power. And I can't do it with the baggage that I carry around trying to control and manage my immature reaction to my own feelings. And I want to be able to be of real service. So the thing that I was down in Florida, I was lucky enough to spend a week with down by Mary's beautiful bay. And they have face-to-face meetings every morning, and it's wonderful to see people breathing in 3D, not 2D. And we had a bonfire meeting. It was probably 90 degrees. I don't know what that was about, but there was a bonfire. You know, you got to do something. That's right, Brenda, what you do when you have COVID. You have a bonfire when it's 90 degrees. And one of the ladies read I love that we're reading the letter from Bill, but she read a letter from Dr. Bob, and I don't have it. But what I pulled away from it was that we can't get too psychological in here, that we have to remember that this is about love and service. And, you know, I can get really psychological, and I think I need to. I think I need to do intentional self-examination. And then I need to also do intentional honesty with others. So there can be a lot of psychological, you know, mirroring on, are you telling yourself the truth or not? And are you making up stories that aren't true? Where is this coming from? Is this baggage from the past? Is this, is this, that? All these things are all, you know, disordered ways of handling life, and they will, you know, if not dealt with, cause drinking, suicide, necessary medication for depression, all this kind of stuff. And I don't want any of that to be my experience. So it was told to me that love and service, I don't know exactly how it went, but I'll try to say it. It goes hand in hand. I have to give love to be able to receive love. I have to be able to receive love to be able to give love. And that it is a constant giving and receiving, giving and receiving, giving and receiving, giving and receiving. And my experience has been that I hide from the receiving end, that I control and manage how much I'm going to let you actually give to me. And I'm starting to understand that I am starving my emotional health to death by not being able to take love from y'all. I'm taking your information, but I'm not really getting hit in the heart with love. And that when, to be able to actually be of service to God, God has taken on a lot of catchphrase names for me. Higher power, the great mystery. I'm on the great mystery right now. I like that great mystery thing, right? Because I get it in my head that I think I'm gonna be able to figure it out. So the whole idea of the great mystery is something I don't have to figure out, but it's a better name than, you know, I don't understand God, because I don't like not being able to understand anything. So the great mystery works for me. All right, I'm good with that. But for right now, at this moment, with my heart open and exposed, I can tell you that right now, God is love for me. And I have heard people say this so many times, and it sounded really intriguing, but not real to me. It never got through my chest bone to my heart, but it, you know, I got it here. I never got it. So one of the things that I can tell you is, I believe that our journey, the great mystery, if you will, I've had moments when I was able to see, like my experience getting Mary as a sponsor, that the veil got pulled back and I could see that God's hand was all over this. Like it was just all over it. Tom told me Mary wasn't even taking anyone this month. She wasn't going to be available. I was like, who is this lady? I don't even know. I would tell you this, my husband laughed because she was the speaker and he said, you're going to get the speaker as a sponsor. He thought it was like a cliche in AA. But anyway, it was fun. What I can tell you is my ability to understand love. And I think this is very profound what I'm about to say. And I've had to like really accept that this is true. That one of the reasons that I suffered so much pain when my husband died was he was the first thing I ever loved. Because of that, he's left. I now know that it's possible for me. And I believe to some extent that God places the people in front of us that we can actually be present for so that we can be present for God. And I think that that is the critical component as to why it is so important that we do 12-step work, because we're continuing to open our hearts to allow, to give, so that we can receive. So I will say this, that as I have grown, I can't give away what I don't have. So I feel bad for the people that I sponsored when I didn't have a clue. Oh God, golly knows what I was giving them. I was trying, I was doing the best I could. It must've been morbidly bad. But I can tell you that all along the way, I've they've told me, hey, you did a good job. I don't know. I think, oh my God. What I can tell you is that I know that when I have opened up to I use the term next level. I don't like that term because it doesn't adequately express what I'm trying to say to you. But when I have exposed a little bit more of my soul, that it is so like clarifying, and that I know that I am able to give more. There was the longest time when giving was not why I was here. I was here to project an image, even though I was in Alcoholics Anonymous. I know that sounds crazy, but that is true. And I don't want to be that person anymore. I want to be able to give the grace that has been given to me. And for me to be able to do that, I have to continue to do that spiritual handshake with God to move to whatever it's being at, wherever I'm being asked to go today. And if I were to continue to talk, I would be making stuff up. I am so absolutely grateful to the people that are in this room that know who they are, who have absolutely blessed me with the gift of the fellowship of the Spirit. I am forever going to tell y'all that I went to another place and got sober, and y'all kept me sober through one of the most devastating periods of my recovery. And I thank you. Now, thank you, Sam, for asking me.
Thank you. That was
Thank you,
so
Dawn.
beautiful. Thank you. So I'm going to read that part. I'm not going to read the whole letter, but I was just going to read that paragraph that you were talking about that came out of Dr. Bob's farewell talk. And it says, there are 2 or 3 things that flashed into my mind on which it could be fitting to lay a little emphasis. One is the simplicity of our program. Let's not louse it up with Freudian complexes and things that are interesting to the scientific mind, but have very little to do with our actual AA work. Our 12 steps, when simmered down to the last, resolve themselves into the words love and service. We understand what love is, and we understand what service is. So let's bear those two things in mind. I thought that was beautiful. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. And it's so interesting how Jay last week was talking about how that kind of self-love and self-compassion too. And in that letter, it goes into, much more greater humility with ourselves, with others, and with God. To have some humility towards ourselves is really cool too. So we're going to open it up. A lot of times when somebody gives a badass talk like that, a lot of people don't want to raise their hand because who wants to follow that? So in that case, I'll just pick on people.
We pick on Jackie. I've wanted to hear from Jackie forever. Her and Dave are like my peeps.
Whatever you want, rock it out.
After
Jackie?
that.
Wow. Thank you, Don. That was just, it touched me very much. Wow. I was just thinking about how, the highs, it talks about the highs and the lows and what you said about AA has carried you through everything. And that's what's happened to me too. I have had a lot of losses I lost a son first in 1988. And in 1989, I met Mary Thayer. She was not a grief counselor then. Anyway, but she saved my life. And in 2009, I lost another son. And again, there was a lot going on in between there, but AA took me through all that grief, and I didn't have a sponsor whenever I lost him. But thank God I stayed sober long enough, and then God put Mary in our first class that we went to at school. And anyway, I was thinking about what you said and how I really feel I came in here, I was so immature. I mean, I came in here and I was Miss AA, and I got drunk again. And I realized, that I had to get more honest. But anyway, and I thought I was, and I wasn't. And anyway, very immature. And I think I continue to grow in AA and continue to enlarge on my spiritual condition, which I'm very, very grateful for. And in 2009, I lost a second son. And, I called Mary. I couldn't find a meeting. I was in Denver. And so she said, wait a minute, I'll call somebody and they'll give you a call. And Mickey Mussett called me. And I went to, happened to go to Fellowship of the Spirit at that time. And I had a little brother who had just had a couple months sobriety, and he joined us up there. And, it was like AA just totally surrounded me from all over the United States. And that's how I've met, a lot of you guys that I know in here, and carried me through that again. And, just recently, I met Dave in AA. He had 7 months and I had a year. And we're going to have 33 years of marriage. And 35. Anyway, I do it all again. It's been awesome. But we did grow up together in this program, and thank God for Mary. He always said that she saved our marriage too. But anyway, I just want to say just a little bit about, walking this program, and it's an inside out job. And, I couldn't love myself when I came in here, but by working these steps, I learned how to love Jackie. And the thing I like the most is the love and tolerance that we have in this program and working with others, step 12. And, oh gosh, it's been about 2.5 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And so anyway, went through that and decided not to have chemotherapy. And, you wouldn't know it today. I mean, it still has changed only slightly. And anyway, I just want to say this. My brother, or my daughter was going to give me a surprise birthday. And I wasn't going to go because I had cancer, right? So then it was back on again. So I went there, and like 49 family members showed up, probably because they thought it might be the last time they see me, right? And that was in February. And the next month, my little brother, who was 10 years younger, died of a brain aneurysm. And 3 days short of having 10 years sobriety. And again, you know, AA carried me through that. And I've got another little brother who's facing some problems, right? And he needs to make a decision. And so last night, in the middle of the night, I wake up, right? And I'm going, I know what he needs to do. This is God talking to me, right? And so I said a little prayer, and I said, okay, God, I really don't know. This could be just Jackie. And so I woke up and I said, please show me in my readings that what I should do. And so he did. And I woke up and I read this, and I just want to read it to you. It says, perhaps the beginning of wisdom is a realization that no other person really knows us or knows what is best for us. Only God does. When in the company of the truly wise, we discover that very little advice is given or taken. There is a humble recognition that there are no easy answers. In fact, there are no answers. We walk through life with one hand holding our questions and the other held by God. And you know, my hand today is held by God, and I'm so grateful for that. And I get up in the morning and I just want to stay present in the presence. And I want to tell you, I wish I could tell you I do that every day, but I don't. But I do my best. And I know it's all about God. I'm only here, you know. He's got me here for another day. I don't know why, but I keep showing up and he just keeps showing me. So thank you so much, Don. I just really appreciate that so much. Thank you. Thank you. It's good seeing everybody.
Hey, thank you, Jackie. So somebody told me that it's Kat Van Horn's AA birthday today. Congratulations, Kat Van Horn. Much love. Maybe I shouldn't have said the full name or whatever, but that's okay. And then we have Summer said she would like to share. So Summer, are you still available?
Hi, I'm Summer. I'm an alcoholic addict. Thank you guys for having me at this meeting. Dawn, thank you for your lead. And Jackie, thank you as well for sharing, and I'm very sorry for your losses. There was something you were talking about, Dawn, about when you were sharing about your sponsor. So I'll just make this real quick. Like, long story short, I got a DUI at the beginning of the year, and everything's kind of coming to a head. And yesterday I went to watch the video of myself, and my sponsor had told me early on that I was in a lockdown system from a very young age, and that I had lost the ability to choose. And I shared last night, I've never been able to have compassion for myself the way that I did when I watched that video, because it was really, really sad. And I can tell you guys, like, a month ago, I couldn't have watched it. And the officer was asking me would I blow the thing, and I was like, just have me do whatever you want. Like, I realized watching this video, I was like, I couldn't choose. It got to a point where we were going back and forth for so long that he said, you know what, I'm just gonna make the decision for you. You're not gonna blow, we're going to the station. And like, I had forgotten all this. Like, I was in a blackout, obviously. And it took me back to the beginning, what my sponsor had told me about. I lost the ability to choose. Like, that's scary. It's sad and so scary. And today she wrote a letter for my attorney, because my trial's in the morning, which I'm so grateful for this meeting, by the way. Thank you guys so much. And I didn't even know, she's been working with me since March. She's a university professor. And I thought, when you were sharing, Dawn, I was like, I didn't even know this. And it's like, I'm a very different person to like teach to. And I've been wondering, like, what is it about her that she's been getting through to me? You know, like, she has helped me so much. Like, I get why we have, you know, the suggestions of getting a sponsor and working through these steps. The time this woman has put in for me, like, I have never received love like that. The time that my friends here in Richmond have done for me, I don't know how to express my gratitude, and there's really nothing I could ever give back, but I just want you all to know, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And I'm so grateful to be at this meeting. Thank you for letting me share.
Hey, thank you so much for sharing. Hey, since it's Kat's birthday and I probably owe her amends for just calling her whole name out and all that, we'd love to hear from you if you're here. Is Kat around? Can we hear from Kat?
Hey, thanks. I'm Kat. I'm an alcoholic. Wow. Dawn, thank you so much. Jeez. It's wild. One of the things I held on to when I came into AA, like for the first time, I was able to be honest about so much, so easily, for the first time ever. And one of the few things I held on to was when I was incapable of maintaining any sort of emotional sobriety in early sobriety, when it came particularly to responding poorly, when things in my romantic relationship didn't go as I wanted them to, is that the thought of a drink never crossed my mind, which was incredible. But I reverted back to the first disorder that manifest, which was an eating disorder. And I wasn't able to be honest with anyone about that. Not my sponsor, not myself, not my therapist for a while. And it wasn't until I started to realize that every time I engaged in that behavior, I felt not sober. Like I felt like I had relapsed. It was wild. And it wasn't until another woman was vulnerable enough to be honest about that, or honest about her own struggles with that at a meeting, that I was able to be honest. But it showed me just how big a piece this emotional sobriety piece is. Because if all it took was not getting what I demanded from people and situations that surrounded me to cause me to revert into active eating disorder behavior, right? How far away from a drink could I be? And for some reason, that other little outside issue was so much more shameful to talk about than any alcohol or drug related thing. I don't know. It's wild. I'm feeling really overwhelmed today in a good way. I'm just filled with so much love and so much gratitude. I just feel really fortunate to be connected with this beautiful fellowship of the Spirit and so many of you that I've never met face to face in person, but I feel a real bond to. I'm able to feel God's love when I'm in these rooms, even though it's through a computer screen. And that is just tremendous. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Beautiful share. Tom, would you like to share? No. Yeah, you.
Tom, an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Hey, Tom.
Sober by God's grace and grateful to be here. Don, thanks so much. That was, every time I hear you now, I'd say it's the best I ever heard you, but that was fabulous. It really was. The things that came up for me were something that Pritz told us years ago, that like, I don't like people doing things for me. I don't like to let people serve me. I don't like that. It makes me feel weak or vulnerable, or I don't know what it is, but I don't like it. And he said, you know, if you won't let other person do for you and be of service to you, you have robbed them of one of the greatest gifts you could possibly give them, which is the ability to be of service, you know? And that's something I'm still getting over that. I still feel really uncomfortable when people do things for me. You know, now I'm getting older, it's getting a little easier, you know, truthfully. But that's really the deal. And the other thing, you know, I really love John a lot. I mean, you know that. And, you know, I mean, we didn't know each other that long, but we got really close, real fast. And I knew him, you know, for some years, you know. But what I was thinking about, what hit me is the last time I heard Ken Devaney speak, his wife had just died like 2 months earlier, and he wasn't even going to go out into this conference and give the talk. And but you know, and he cried during his talk, you know, and he's a big man, and it's kind of unnerving sometimes to hear a big man cry like that. And he said, you know, I knew she was going to pass. I knew it. I mean, we both did, but I had no idea how much of me she was going to take with her. And God, I thought, oh my God, that just went right through me, you know, and it still does, just reverberates, you know. So we're in this together, and we get through this together, and I'm so glad to be in it with you. Thanks so much, Don. I love you.
Thanks, Tom. Man, everybody thinks we just pick on people, but nobody wants to raise their hands after someone cheers in this deal. You know, sometimes they just knock the leather off the ball, you know. Let's see here.
Can we hear from Brenda Patterson? She's gonna hate me for that.
So Brenda.
Hi, Dawn. I'm Brenda Patterson, alcoholic. So Mary Thayer and Dawn came to visit me in Indianapolis, and they pulled up in Dawn's van, traveling van. And Dawn said that she met me at Fox in Denver, but I was pretty much into me at the time and all my woes, so I don't remember Dawn. But she stepped out of the back of the van, and she had on these old short cropped pants, call them her traveling pants, and a pair of boots. And it was like, whomp, it's like it hit me in the chest. It was like my long lost sister. I mean, it was instantaneous. And I just think that happens to me sometimes, where it happened to me with Mary Thayer years ago. But it happened to me when Dawn visited, and we have spent hours talking on the phone, in person, and it's just like, I don't even know how to describe it. So thank you, Dawn, so much. I miss you. I wish that the COVID wasn't here so you could come and hook up to my stuff. Dawn called and wanted to visit. Earlier this year, we did the International Women's Conference was in Indianapolis, and I had 12 ladies at my house at one time. And Dawn wanted to sleep outside in the van, and she had asked if she could hook up to my electrical, and I didn't understand at the time what she was talking about. Anyway, it was fun. You know, this whole emotional sobriety, you know, my sponsor often says that an asset is an asset only until it becomes a liability. And growing up, I grew up in some alcoholism, and I grew up in one of the things that would happen, there were 8 of us kids, and we'd ride the school bus, and we would have the bus driver let us off down the end of the alley, and then we would sneak down the alley, look in the house, see if it was safe to go in, and if it wasn't, we would go down to the railroad tracks under the trestle. We had a tent that we kept there, and we would stay in the tent until we thought it was safe to go back home. And growing up in that kind of world, I always had to be mentally a step ahead of the game. Mm-hmm. Well, if we come home and he does this, we'll do this. And so you had to always be constantly thinking, no matter where you were, school, home, whatever, you had to always be thinking a step ahead. And my sponsor often reminds me that that was an asset at the time because we had to protect ourselves. But it's a liability today. So emotional sobriety for me today is no longer taking care of myself, although it's so easy for me to continue to do that. And when I say take care of myself, I mean take care of myself mentally and emotionally. The line in the big book this week that's been resonating with me is it says that, so therefore the problem centers in the mind and not the body. So the problem is my thinking. So when I'm constantly thinking about, well, if this happens, I'll do that. Or if this happens, I'll do this. Or if this doesn't happen, I'll do this. So in other words, when I'm constantly trying to control situations with my mind, then I am always going to experience that emotional upheaval. I'm always going to have that emotional upheaval if that's how I think. So the thing I've been blessed with during this COVID is a lot of time to be in meditation, a lot of time to be in prayer, a lot of time to be in reading, to really focus on this, because I can't go out there and take care of everybody because I have to, I'm here. And so that other line in the big book that has really been hitting me is that we carry the vision of God's will in all of our activities. And so what that keeps taking me back to is that it's God. It's not me. It's not my mind. It's not me that I'm going to take care of everything. I'm going to make me be safe and secure. It's that focusing, that refocusing my mind on God. And if I'm to carry the vision of God's will in all my activities, then I have to ask myself, what is that? Well, God wants me to cure cancer. God wants me to cure a lot of diseases out there because of the work that he has me doing sitting at this desk right here. I'm a recruiter, I'm a headhunter, and I specialize in the pharmaceutical biotech world. And I have some companies out there who are doing absolutely amazing work in the field of cancer and a lot of different illnesses and diseases. And that is, I'm supposed to just put one foot in front of the other. I'm supposed to put one foot in front of the other. ABC company in California needs a candidate who's going to help them to solve a problem, and that's God's vision for me. God's vision for me is sponsorship, that I am to be, God sends me certain people, certain women, and I'm supposed to sponsor. The vision that I have of God's will for me is I'm supposed to be the best grandmother that I can be to my 2-year-old Mabel. If you haven't met her, you should. She's amazing. And so I'm supposed to be this grandmother to Mabel, which means that I'm supposed to get down on my knees and meet her at her level. And I'm not supposed to be worrying. I'm not supposed to be worrying about anything. I don't know if anyone can relate to this or not. My daughter has cystic fibrosis. And I can get myself in a state of emotional upheaval. And I am picturing, Gary Brown talked to me about this one time. I can sit and I can experience emotional upheaval and already have my daughter, I'm standing in a funeral home at my daughter's funeral, and I'm experiencing all of those emotions because I assume that that's what's going to happen, you know? That is the problem that can happen in my mind, is I can catastrophize, if that's the right word, things. And there's absolutely no truth to that, you know? So it's tricky because my mind can worry, and my mind can try to control. And in its simplest form, this thing is really simple. Trust God. Clean house. I mean, it sounds so cliche-ish, but it is. Just trust God that it's all going to be okay, no matter what it is, that it's just all going to be okay. So that's what I'm really trying to focus on today is, for today, what's God's vision? You know, what vision? It says I carry the vision of God's will in all my activities. So what are my activities? And then what is the vision that I have that God wants me to do? What does he want me to do for him today? So I think it's an exciting time, COVID or not. I think it's really an exciting time for me to be able to grow in this area while going through all of this. Dawn, I miss you to pieces. Thank you. You're beautiful.
Yeah, that's great. So we have Veronica from Santa Fe has her hand raised.
Hi, everyone. My name is Veronica, and I'm an alcoholic. And yep, here in Santa Fe. Hi, guys and girls. When I say guys, I mean guys and girls. Dawn, really good to hear what you had to say. Thank you so much. Really, a shout out to Tom Yule for introducing me to this meeting a few months ago. I've been attending for a couple of months now, and you know, the emotional. I've really, and when I say recently, just before probably I started attending these meetings, is I've realized that, you know, there's one thing putting down the, and just to give it a frame of reference, I'm 3.5 years in programs. So just so that you know or suspect where I'm coming from, you know, it's one thing dealing with the physical sobriety. And I realized that, you know, really I put down the drink to give me a half-assed shot at getting some emotional sobriety. And I have got to find the emotional sobriety so that I don't pick up a drink again. And that's the way that I've come to see it at the moment. You know, it's sort of both sides of, or either side of the same, you know, 24-hour, one day at a time coin. And it's a hell of a ride. I'm currently I have a sponsor, and we've started back at the beginning of the big book. And in addressing the emotional sobriety, one of my things is control. It's like, don't tell anyone, but I got control issues, you know, management of self, management of others, people, places, things, you know, it's torturous. And we're going through the book page by page, line by line, and everywhere that it says, I'm just expressing, this is just an example of how I'm addressing one portion of the emotional sobriety for me, is that we are replacing anywhere that it says alcohol or alcoholism with insane self-management or variations of those. And it's unbelievable. I see myself in some ways, I actually see it far more clearly as the big book is addressing through this exercise, the way in which I go about managing things, you know, and rather than even the alcohol portion of it. Dawn, there was a few things that you said that really hit home for me. I loved that, and it's actually taken a bit of a load off my mind. I've written it down so that I can refer to it, and I know that it's what Mary Thayer told you. And that, you know, along the lines of what I heard is, you know, do you trust your husband? Do you trust God? You know, then, you know, basically this is between them. And I just went, oh yeah. And there it is. And I don't know when it will be my mum's time. She's got some issues going on. She now has dementia for quite a number of years. So putting that aside, I also made me smile. I love the way that you expressed what COVID has done, you know, for you, albeit I know it's a horrific, not diminishing the awful realities of it. But I'll tell you what it's done for me. I don't think that I could have mustered the ability to have put down so many things, so many activities to truly clear the deck, to make space for the other things to come up. That's what this period has done for me. And it is on the tip of my nose, and I'm being asked to address them. I'm being guided to. I ask God now not even to remove the defects of character. Yes, it's a portion of it for sure. But, you know, when I say, you know, God showed me the way, I'm like, oh, God, don't even show me the way. Just clear the path. But, you know, shout it out, because I'm a little bit on the thick side. But, you know, hang in there, I'm coming. And I also love made me smile when you said, you know, what your boyfriend said, that life is a funny way of sponsoring us. Well, it's been a rough 4 months for me. And this is just COVID aside, but just happens to run in parallel. And you know what? It really is. Life does have a funny way of sponsoring us. Probably the biggest thing, and I don't know what to do with this yet, but I'll certainly take it into dialogue with my sponsor. You know, when you're talking about, basically you were saying that you hide and control and manage the receiving bit, the receiving portion of love, and that, you know, you're starved from the lack of being able to receive. And I just went, oh my God, that's me. You know, it has to come in a certain way from certain people in certain amounts. And I suspect part of it is because I'm still thinking from that it's a transactional thing, that what is given to me, I must be able to return, you know, in the same amount, in the same way, or something, you know, kind of similar. And that's really tough because I don't know if I can do it. So I just block it and don't receive it. So I wanted to say thank you so much, Dawn. Really good to hear you today. And thanks for sharing some really important gems. Thanks for listening.
Kimberly?
Hey, my name's Kimberly. I'm an alcoholic. Don, I really wanted to thank you. I think some of the key points that you brought up for me that really rang true is sort of going through those motions of sponsoring other people or going through this program and pretending maybe to walk that walk without being completely honest and sort of knowing in your gut that you're not entirely being forthcoming with whatever it is, whether it's food, sex, men, shopping, God knows what that is. You know, those little bits of, well, is that really a relevant thing to mention today when I talk to my sponsor? Those things that I begin to rationalize about are really hard for me to accept because I always had thought, you know, I'm not really perfect and I don't really have to be perfect. If I could just kind of scoot by, it would be great. But really what you brought up today, I've done it several times this week. Thanks, Jay. I've literally pulled over in a stressful moment and go, I love you. I love you. I've done this all week. And the best part about this emotional sobriety workshop for me, thanks to Sam and Corey for inviting me into this world, is that I get a piece of a nugget. I get something different than I get at an AA meeting. I get a little piece of growing up. And it is, as is written in there, you know, where we're 17 versus 47. What's going on? Don, you got a friend there? The part that's so interesting is that what is it in this workshop when it's like a leather workshop when you're hammering leather and you're working, you go, oh, look, a cute little new way to make something fun in the belt. And I like that you shared enough something really spiritual to me tonight, is that being honest with myself and loving myself isn't that selfish, self-centered behavior as I grow in loving and tolerance with others. And we talk about it in the program and we work through it in the step work, but I don't know that we give ourselves full permission. And I know I've heard Mary Thayer talk about it as well in some ways, about it's okay to be sad and it's okay to have these feelings and not specifically living in that grief. And I'm grateful to have all of you and to be a little bit of this fellowship of the Spirit, because the Spirit is the only thing I have most days that allows me the courage sometimes just to get out of bed. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Kimberly. So Dawn, that was a really beautiful share. Thank you so much. And it almost felt like, you know, I was just sitting in your living room getting to kind of hang out with you and listen to that life experience and just kind of letting it penetrate my heart, you know, and that's what's fun. And I really appreciate you giving so much of yourself to this tonight. We don't have any more time. So would you like to, I'm going to mute us. And do you have any final words, anything you didn't think of that you may want to share, any stories you forgot to tell or anything you'd like to say?
I'd just like to say that was my dog giving me love.
Oh, yeah. You're gonna say you got a werewolf in your living room, right?
Thank
That's
you,
awesome.
Sam, and everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. All right. Well, I'm gonna we'll mute and we'll just inwardly say, sit quietly, and we'll just hold the Lord's Prayer in our thoughts and our mind's eye, and meet you back here in a second. All right. Love you guys. Have a great night. Thanks. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Don. Thanks, Sammy.